This video is sponsored by Hammond Robotics, where we bring the future home. The history of Titanfall is one to be told through the eyes of their pilots. Though it's hard to believe that the original Titanfall released over 7 years ago on March 11, 2014. Being honest, this was not the perfect launch for a game. This was a new intellectual property in a landscape filled with first-person shooters all around. However, Respawn Entertainment had a vision. Led by Call of Duty's co-creator Vincent Pella, as well as other experienced developers, Titanfall started development in 2010. What would this up-and-coming team cook up for such a competitive market? By then, the FPS genre was clearly dominated by both Call of Duty and Battlefield. Yet, 2014 was also filled with other shooter-style titles such as Tom Clancy's The Division, Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, Sunset Overdrive, Far Cry 4, Destiny, Watch Dogs, just to name a few in Microsoft's platform. Really, the release of Titanfall was a great gamble. During the time of its release, Titanfall was often referred to as a Call of Duty with mechs. However, I feel that the gameplay was different enough without reinventing the wheel. The several game modes implemented familiar objectives such as scoring the most kills, capturing the flag, capturing the objectives, among many others. In the battlefield, players start off as pilots, equipped with jump kits which allow them to double jump and rise up to new heights, giving the game some sort of verticality. Maps were big enough to allow players to perform several acrobatics and gain speed by mastery of the controls. From personal experience, having no prior knowledge of FPS games, I can fairly say that the skill floor was quite accessible, and the skill ceiling felt very rewarding. Once you got comfortable enough bunny hopping across the map, all you have left to do is to refine your loadouts and accuracy. Capture the Flag used to be my favorite game mode, although most of the player base was found playing the multiplayer campaign. Looking back at the game, the mix between multiplayer gameplay and storytelling might have been a little too controversial. Actually, that was one of the harshest critiques the game received, given that the story was essentially told through radio signals in the background. Some people may have disregarded it as a mere background noise as they try to focus on the war at hand. Before checking back at the campaign, I couldn't really recall any interesting event during the story. Though that isn't to say that I didn't enjoy it. Even if it was just background noise, the delivery of the lines combined with the Titan AI voice and the endless gunfire from every corner made it such an immersive experience for me. I gotta say, Titanfall ruined me for other FPSs. I was living a power fantasy. You could go flying from your team's spawn to the enemies quite quickly, and if you were killed in the process, you could get back to the action in an instant. Barely did you have a moment to breathe, hugging the walls as you threw ordnance before taking a 57 caliber sniper was an amazing feeling. Of course, there was such a huge variety of playstyles from which you could choose, all the while the Interstellar Manufacturing Corporation and the Frontier Militia engaged in their conflict. After all, They were the main characters in their story. We were just providing the gunpowder to the ground. And once you've done so enough, you were rewarded with a Titan.
Stand by for Titanfall.
Atlas, Ogre, Strider. These were the 3 Titan classes that would define the entire game. Each Titan could have any weapon equipped, but they had their differences. While the Ogre was a bulky bullet sponge, the Strider had a swift but fragile chassis. In between was the Atlas Titan. Score enough points and then you could order your Titan from the sky. Any of these 3 Goliaths could tip the tide of the battle. Did they break the game? To a point, yes, but any skilled pilot or group of pilots could take a Titan down in no time if they were careless enough. However, every interaction gave you a sense of power. Taking down enemy Titans as a pilot, brawling other Titans while you're piloting one, or shredding through pilots in your unstoppable mecha. For a good 2 years, I can say for sure that many people found joy in this newfound, innovative experience, just as I did. However, after a few rounds of DLC with some new maps and improvements, the player base definitely began to dwindle down. Halo 5, Metal Gear Solid 5, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Overwatch. The gaming landscape was shifting then again, and the fall of Titanfall was something to be expected, really. But you know what? It's okay. Titanfall ran its course, and during that time it managed to sell 10 million copies by October 2nd, 2015. I can say for many that I did not expect the sequel to Titanfall to come so soon. Even more for it to come with such high force. We were getting a new Titanfall. No, we were getting something bigger. Was that a Titan wielding a sword? Oh, everybody was losing their minds. After this, I think Respawn took the best step in their trailer lineup, because the next piece of information we got from the game was a single player trailer. I cannot state the importance of this. This was the very thesis statement that would define the philosophy that would permeate Titanfall 2. Allow me to explain. Over the course of its lifetime, Titanfall 2 proved to be everything players loved about the first Titanfall. And this big first step in showing us the campaign was the ideal way to get people hooked. As of right now, Titanfall 2 campaign is perceived as arguably one of the best in FPS history. You get to live the power fantasy from before. Here, you start off basically as a grunt who is training to become a pilot. Almost poetically, you train in a dream-like simulation with Captain Lastimosa. From the get-go, the controls feel extremely different from what they used to back in the first game. But even from the tutorial, you feel a great sense of freedom. Additionally, this is where many pilots fell in love with the game, and I believe the developers at Respawn had a lot of fun crafting what they call the gauntlet. Here, you need to go through a circuit as fast as possible while routing the enemies in the area. You learn how to chain your wall jumps together while shooting and throwing nades. It's fairly simple and short, and it's structured in a way in which you can practice and start over as many times as you like. And if you want to be amazed, look up any speedrun of the gauntlet. You may even want to try one of your own. Coming back to the campaign, I felt a great joy looking at the little details that developers were so careful about. The dialogue between your Titan and you always put a smile on my face. The intermissions between encounters felt adequate, and the battles themselves felt thrilling and really help you push your mobility and marksmanship to the limit. There are lots of collectibles around, and the open-endedness of the landscapes feels amazingly designed to let you fly from beginning to end. Again, it's everything we used to love from the original, but with very refined structures that elevates its storytelling and gameplay to levels no one of us was expecting. If you haven't played the campaign, I highly recommend you do so, as it is full of surprises that lead to very satisfying resolution. Also, it helps you a lot to play around with the movement options and weapon variety before heading into the multiplayer. Of course, that wasn't the only trailer that released on that day. We also got the first look at the multiplayer gameplay. Here's where so many other things came into view. New titans, new abilities, new guns, new executions. And even if it was not stated explicitly, we could already see some of the customization options for pretty much everything. This was looking like a completely new experience, and I just couldn't wait any longer. The hype was definitely there. Everything we were so upset about in the original, it was addressed here. Our voices had been heard and we would be continuing to talk. I still remember back in the release of the first Titanfall, there was a YouTuber who had been providing their audience with so much inside interviews and content to hype up everything Titanfall related, and their name was Jacksondale, creator of Titanfall Legends. Nowadays, the Titanfall Legends channel is still run by Jared, as Jacksondale suddenly disappeared from the internet. Both creators helped to create the Titanfall community as it is today. Their channel featured clips from players all over the world, and overall, it was a great space to start discussion regarding both Titanfall games. Other Titanfall content creators I cherish include Frody Omen, who provided lots of guides, tier lists, and opinions on the competitive side of the games. Ahoy, or Retro Ahoy, who created the Titanfall Weapon Guide, which features beautiful blueprints of the first game's weapons with a militaristic touch. Then there was Hyper, an animator who used to do amazing and quirky animations, who then became a senior animator at Respawn, uploading their work to their channel. Iniquity, whose advanced movement video helped a lot of upcoming players to get acquainted with the game's mobility. GameSager, an amazing Titanfall content creator who got featured in the game's Gauntlet for achieving the fastest time during Titanfall 2's tech test. Shammy, Angry Joe, The Actman, and everyone else who reviewed the game during their launch. And Tooncraft, who frequently uploaded several cute animations with the game's characters. Even if it's just a short mention, these are some of the content creators who I remember that accompanied my hyped self during so many years, and I feel they are as important to the game and its community as the developers themselves. With a strong sense of community and a great game on our hands, everything pointed towards an ideal launch. Except it wasn't. Some people argue that the reason why Titanfall 2 flopped so badly during its release was the launch window. You may have already heard about this, but I am obligated to bring it to the table. Titanfall 2 was scheduled to release on October 28, 2016, exactly 1 week after Battlefield 1, and 1 week before Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Again, the FPS genre was undebatably tilted towards these huge franchises. The time was ticking and most people would be making a difficult choice. Am I going to get COD or Battlefield? What are my friends gonna get? Oh, Titanfall? Barely heard about it. Again, this might have been bad luck, bad direction, and some people even argued it may have been intentional by EA, but it's hard to say for sure. Respawn had an almost perfect game in their hands, but it went mostly unnoticed during its launch. Me? Well, I wouldn't be here talking about it 5 years later if I had chosen any of the other options. Just 1 month before Titanfall 2 came out, one of the best trailers I had seen released. This was it for me. I was sold. I'm talking about the pilot's trailer. This was going to be us in a month, and with that, it was a matter of time before we came back to a new frontier. You already know the basics, so I'll let the pilots demonstrate what could be done in this emerging playground. Overall, what can I say? The first Titanfall had such a great impact on my life, and I wouldn't be who I am if it weren't for that game. It helped me to open up to people online. It made me have something to look up for whenever I came back to school during a time in which I didn't feel comfortable with myself. I felt a great sense of community. I felt so hyped about every single piece of news of the game, and I just feel grateful. Today is May 1st, 2021. It's been 7 years since the original Titanfall came out, and 5 years since the second entry came out. And yet we're still here talking about it. We just managed to get together and play the game. It has been so long since I didn't have to wait a single second to join a match. I have to thank everyone in the community who decided to get together today on May 1st. I was not expecting any of this, Even Respawn seems to have noticed. So keep your voices up. And lastly, I think that one of the key points today is to let Respawn know that we're still passionate about Titanfall 2 and the Titanfall franchise overall. This is a way to let them know that if they were to release a Titanfall 3, there will certainly be demand for it. However, how would that look like? With the release of Apex Legends and right now the dominant genre being Battle Royale with battle passes and subscriptions and the such, how would Titanfall 3 look like? Would it have to implement microtransactions? Would it have a battle pass? What would it change considering the great jump that the first to second game had? I don't know. I wouldn't be able to answer that. What I do know is that Titanfall 2 and its development proved that you don't have to start perfect, and that you can take any failure or any mistake as a learning process. That's why we got such an amazing game in the second entry. And to be honest, I spent so much time with both games. I can't say which one I spent the most time. I just know that they delineated a very important piece in my life. So that's why I'm here. Until then, stand by for Titanfall.